purchase your property, you've got tenants into the property, but what about the maintaining, the ongoing maintenance of that property? That's what we're here to talk about today with Joanne Danckwardt from one agency, JD Property Agents in Fairy Meadow. So Joanne, what do we need to be doing on an ongoing basis when it comes to our investment properties? What are the maintenance issues or the things that we should be aware of through the life of this property?
It's really interesting because when you first buy your first investment property, it's all about getting as much money back from the tenants and trying to not spend much money on the property, because you're usually in huge amounts of debt. So it can be, a bit of a stretch at times. I think it's really important to think about putting some money aside though, because there will always be things that will pop up. Doesn't matter how good the property is. Also, there's a difference between the apartments or stratted properties and houses. And so you do have different maintenance issues or costs that will come in that you'll need to factor in because of those two different properties.
So what would that entail? What's an example?
Well, an example of, you may have to paint a house externally or put new gutters on over time on a house. However, for a strata property, that will be covered by your strata fees, because in a strata property, you really only own the air within it. You don't actually own the physical external structure. So you pay strata fees, and part of the strata fees is to put money aside for administration, things like your week-to-week running costs, but there's also a proportion of that strata that goes into a capital works fund, like a sinking fund, and that's for more major works that may need to be done down the track. So they do a projection, and they might think, well, in year 10 or year 20, we're going to have to replace the roof tiles, or we're going to have to replace the guttering, and the money has been accumulating over a number of years for those major works. You don't have that with a house. But you have to think about it in the same way. You should be putting a little bit aside all the time. A percentage of the rental income might be a way to do it, or you might say, oh look, I'm just going to put $100 away a month myself, or whatever. You need to factor it in. It's very, very important. You've put a lot of money into an investment property. The last thing you want to do is for it to deteriorate over time, because that will impact on the value of the property down the track. And we've been blessed that property within Australia does increase in value generally quite regularly, and it doesn't go down all that much even when we have crises like the global financial. But we will still need to maintain that value so we maximise it at the end of its life with us, so to speak, because you may look to sell it down the track, and you also want to, over time, attract the best tenants you can. And you won't do that if you let the property deteriorate. So think about the things that you will need to, budget for. Even with strata properties, you still will have things that you may need to replace. Like I've had in an investment property, I've had to replace the cooktop. I've had to replace the hot water service. So there are things that you need can be ovens, there could be an air conditioning unit. Those things aren't going to be covered by your strata fees. So as much as what the strata fees cover a lot of things, they don't cover those items within the apartment or the villa or the townhouse. So you do need to put money aside.
Perfect. Thank you so much. That's great. It gives people a lot of ideas around what can happen, and to make sure that you're prepared, that that's the key to it all. So you've got questions around maintaining your own property and what the best pathway is for you, please get in contact with Joanne here at one agency, JD Property Agents in Fairy Meadow. Thanks so much for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.